is it plugged in?
Yeah, well, whatever. We'll deal. So there's that. So like, yeah, the box thing, that was actually really great. Any ideas or anything? Like, what kind of, for instance, like, would you see, I wrote here that this is probably good as an intro because you can have each toy fit with a riser or some building thing, and then, you have a pretty reasonable kind of shloop, and then the environment changes. But I like your idea where, like, every time that happens, you could just keep the box as an active part of the entire music video just throughout, and that's the music video. But, like, every time it sloops in, the music changes and you update the form. Because one thing I was thinking about is, like, you can throw these objects and they'll bounce around wildly. I thought it would be really cool if you have, like, stems that just whiz by, and then it kind of shoots back, and then it repeats that. So, like, throwing objects is also a creative choice to define how you listen to this music. But, like, if you have enough toys in this box, and they're all fitted with a riser, or, like, some kind of, like, kind of style of thing, then if enough of them are flying around or just kind of around you, you could almost ignore the God music aspect of this.
Or just turn it down.
Or turn it down as more elements come in. But, like, I mean, yeah, so it's interesting. So, like, what kind of ideas do you guys have for, like, how to scale the music based on how many kind of toys are active? Because, like, some people will be perfectly satisfied with 2 toys, just here and whatever. But I think one key thing would be, like, how do you continue to make that interesting? Because, like, one way I was thinking of, like, starting it was, like, music doesn't happen until you reach into the box and pull out a toy, right? So that it's not like, why is this box giving me music? Right? So it's like, it's like teaching the users, like, yeah, when you reach down and pick up a toy, that's when the experience starts. The experience is the box. What's in the box? Play with those toys. But, like, to some extent, would you guys try and put, like, a limit? Like, what do you think a good amount of stems would be for this kind of interactive music video?
I think it depends on the genre, honestly.
Right.
Because for EDM, we can go into, like, more complex stuff.
Yeah.
Big band jazz, more complex stuff.
Right.
Orchestra. But
Yeah.
if we have, like...
You have, like, the saxophone section on one toy. You've got the trumpets on one toy. You've got the strings doing kind of as the riser, as I was mentioning, on a separate toy, and then you throw them around, and then
It's like, so essentially, creating your own music.
Yeah, it would be interesting if the speed of the object determines the intensity at which it plays.
Yeah. Like, if you throw it really fast, it's like...
Yeah, so that when it whizzes by your ear, you hear trumpets, like, blasting desperately trying to get your attention. But if you've just kind of, like, picked it up and you're listening to it, they're doing kind of, like, a really calm, like, maybe, like, hits or stings or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, that you programmed, and then each toy, just as a way to, like, increase the amount of complexity you can put into this, like, but still make it Apple. So if there's a ton of toys whizzing past you, there's a short amount of time in which you're listening to them, but the intensity when they whiz past you is really noticeable. You're like, whoa, that was cool. I wonder what that is. Maybe I can catch it the next time it goes around. Be like, stop, I want to listen to that. And when it, like, the velocity changes, it, like, fades into a slightly less, like, but, still thematically the same. Like, it's still the trumpets playing, like, a theme or whatever, but less kind of stuff. That would be fun. That would be interesting, actually. Like, changing things based on the velocity at which they're thrown.
Yeah.
And then you'd of course have the baby shakers who are just like, I want to move this super fast. I want to hear the trumpets doing this line a lot, kind of style. That would be interesting, actually.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm totally down for this whole, like, horror, like...
Yes. The trumpets get detuned.
The trumpet player's nightmare.
John, yeah, exactly.
The piano, all of a sudden, you turn around and it's prepared. It's turned from like a snazzy keyboard keyboard to a grand piano to
Yeah.
a less grand piano to
Can you imagine, like, at the very
a
end of
prepared piano.
Can you imagine at the very, like, the second to last piece is like the house is crumbled around you and there's a rainstorm and you're hearing all this stuff and it's really discordant in a rainstorm, and the very last one, everything, like, shoots back and then it's nothing. There's, like, a spotlight on the box. The rain is gone, and then the kids come out and tell you the stories of their death.
Yeah. Because then, like, when the God music gets more intense, it's gonna sound even worse when it's, like, all cacophonous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and then it stops. It's
Yeah.
like, when I was 4, my uncle took me into the shed or something. Listen, I am not going to. Maybe I'll be in charge writing stories, but it won't just be these. Yeah.
My mommy gave me this knife to play with.
My grandpa has this cabinet where he puts all of his candy. And I ate some candy once. Apparently I ate too much.
Oh God.
God.
No. No. There's a storm and the house is ruined.
my uncle took me to a
Final-
shed.
Final set is totally quiet, very dark, spotlight on the box as the kids tell you their stories. That would be great! Oh my god!
I could definitely help you and like write.
That would be hilarious. It would be interesting, like, but like, I like what you said. That's like, you know, maybe it could be big band. Well, I mean, like, you know, because again, I'm coming at this from a very specific genre standpoint because in the way I think, like, you know, it's easier to automate electronic music.
Especially with, like, the samples. if you
Yeah.
Make it more intense.
Samples and, like, you know, filters and how wet the effects are. It's easier for me to imagine that on EDM because that's kind of the nature, is that, you know, the automation is kind of key to keeping a sound interesting. But I think it would actually be maybe more of a challenge, but even more satisfying to use, like, live instruments that kind of adapt, you know, that adapt to the intensity at which they're playing, because that happens in video game music. Is like, you know, when something intense happens, sometimes it's just they just add in drums like taiko drums or whatever, but sometimes the actual instruments, it fades into the same instrument playing something more intense, and that would be an interesting idea for live instruments. Like, that would be somebody who actually understands live instruments better than I did, or maybe I could, depending on how interested I am in this, could figure out a way to write like 3 lines for each instrument that kind of increases in intensity but kind of flows into, because especially like if you're doing like a lot of percussive stuff or like just hits as like the low energy stuff, so it's like they're still present, right? They're just ba-da-da, you know, and then as it's like ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and that's like the super intense, like it's some kind of bebop thing happening where they just keep on running, you know, as it whizzes past your ear. That might be funny. That would be interesting. But the key, you know, but the key part is you're in control of what thing, and you could catch and be like, stop, I don't want to listen to this thing anymore. And you just put it on the ground.
And then it's like boom, and then
Yeah, and you could even like just kind of gently throw it far away from you. I mean, in the way I'm describing it, it's like there's zero gravity in this kid's room for some reason. But you can pull that off.
especially with the ghostiness of like
Yeah, depending, you know, it's like,
why.
and it just kind of ricochets everywhere off of the environment. And it depends on like how big the environment is. I mean, in order for things, I think that you'd have to like play around with the size of the room to like see like how much freedom you have to just kind of toss it over there and just have it be quiet over there so you don't have to hear it. So the spatialization might be interesting. Like, you'd have to play around with how close a thing has to be to your head before you hear it. You
Or maybe
have an idea.
you throw the toy down and the toy doesn't bounce, but the toy's ghost does.
Oh.
So it's like the
yeah.
kid is done with the done with the
Down
toy.
with the toy, and then the ghost of the toy, sort of like
Maybe that could be one of the sets. is that, you know what would be interesting in one of the sets where you actually have no control over the direction of the toy's movement, and they kind of like get
They get
closer to you.
And then
Yeah.
like all the sounds.
Yeah, and all the sounds are happening together, and it's super discordant or something. Yeah. So like that would be the ghost idea for this.
Yeah, it's just that
Ghosts of the toys.
because I mean,
Well,
I imagine you could program it so that the toy. I mean, obviously you could program it so that the toy would like bounce around, but I think, like in at least in the story that I am going with, it makes much more sense for the toys to be like not possessed,
Right.
than like.
Well, because I feel like you could make a shift though, because like at the beginning it's supposed to be kind of whimsical. You know, I imagine this toy box to be whimsical, and so you can have like, oh, look how cute it is. The toys bounce when I kind of, and then at some point they turn into something. You know, they're weird.
They're worn out.
They're worn out or something, and then it's like, and then at some point maybe the ghosts start flying around. You like maybe you catch one and it flickers and then it turns into a ghost or something.
Oh yeah.
Like when you try and interrupt it.
Mm-hmm.
You're like,
Oh.
whoa, and it's a ghost. But they don't turn into ghosts until you try and catch them.
Interesting.
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I think the ghost could be a cool feature to unlock. Like, oh, okay, like here's the bunny, and then it like, does something, and you're like, oh, I caught it. Okay, it's a ghost. Like, why is it a ghost?
Until you catch them.
Like if you slip bunnies.
Had to.
It's not.
We're not
conversation
dumb.
with
Like they flicker and turn. Or maybe that'll be just one set would be where every time you catch it, it turns into a ghost. And maybe like a slightly different thing plays. Maybe, I don't know, that might be a little bit of work. I mean, yeah, this would require a lot of thought and planning, and the music is like one of the key things. Is like, you know, it's a lot of stems. And if you want to really drive home the kind of, there's so many toys, it's all discordant thing, you'd kind of have to like write a lot of music and write a lot of like variations of it and interact. And again, a lot of this work would be done in like wise projects and like integrating it together. But it's like good ideas.